everybody, and many thanks for attending today. So, secondly, we are recording this session, and we will be making it available to everybody and any of your friends and colleagues that want it afterwards. So, I'm Simon Pickard of Collier Pickard, and there are two parts to the presentation today. First, we're going to hear from Peter Martin of Survey Mechanics about the integration between his tool, Survey Mechanics, and Maximizer. To answer that quick question, what's the benefit? Well, people who love you and people who hate you will tell you what they think of you, but the other 90% won't unless you ask them. So Survey Mechanics enables you to take the guesswork out of marketing and feedback. Brian Hume of Martec International will then talk us through how they use the combination of Survey Mechanics and Maximizer to gain feedback, reduce admin time, improve their products, and actually, very interestingly, I think, to automate the sending of certificates to course delegates. I'd also add that, as most of you know, Maximizer is a very powerful tool for acquiring, retaining, and developing clients. But islands of data aren't a good idea, and the integration with Survey Mechanics is just one of the integrations available with Maximizer. And then some housekeeping. We'll be using chat to harvest the questions, so please use the chat button, which might be the show conversation or the chat button to the right of the participant button on your toolbar. We'll be answering the Q&As and then circulating them and a link to the recording of the webinar after the session. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Peter Martin of Survey Mechanics. I'll introduce Brian at the start of his session. Peter, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Peter Martin. I'm one of the people who set up Survey Mechanics, and I'm the CEO. And I've been in and out of market research for more years than I care to remember. I'm certainly not going to tell you now. So the question, we've just heard a little bit about why you might think about doing surveys, and there are some very good reasons for doing surveys. I think we all need to know about our customers. We're all making decisions about our business every day, and we need to do that in reference to how our customers are going to react. So the interesting thing is that their needs are probably changing. The world is changing, as you may have noticed. To give you some examples from the lockdown, there's a little company called Peloton that makes home gym fitness equipment and does home gym sessions, has done fantastically well amongst the people who want to keep fit while all the gyms have been shut. Another industry that's really won during the pandemic has been people who make consumer electronics and home cinema kits and that sort of thing, and because people can't go to the cinema. Now, if you're a manufacturer of home cinema kit, or if you're Peloton, or you're a gym, or you're a cinema, wouldn't it be nice to know what's going to happen next? So will the people who started working out at home using their Peloton gear stick with that because actually they prefer the experience to being in a sweaty gym surrounded by people they don't know? And is it safe to be there or not? We're not sure. And should I wear a mask or shouldn't I? And maybe some people might prefer watching films at home on their expensive home cinema kit rather than looking at the screen of the teenager in front of you who's waving his mobile phone about and sticking chewing gum on the seats and talking incessantly. That was my last experience of a cinema visit. So actually, wouldn't it be nice to know what they're thinking? And then, of course, you need to understand whether customers are happy with your service or not. As we have heard, 90% of them won't bother telling you whether they are or not, unless it's an extreme. But businesses will lose over 5 years, perhaps 80% of their customers, and mostly it's because people think they don't care. You can guess at this stuff, but my message would always be don't bet your business on guesswork when you can easily find out. So find out what your customers think. If they didn't buy from you, why not? If they stopped buying from you, why? How did they find you? What's the best marketing approach, and why have they, why have people stopped buying? And then moving on from that, of course, we've got the fact that surveys can greatly streamline the analysis of your customer data. So it's possible to set up surveys that will automatically update your CRM records and measure customer satisfaction with transactions almost immediately. So a little bit about Survey Mechanics, because there are other survey platforms available. We're aware you have a choice, as someone used to say. But Survey Mechanics, we're a UK-based company. We have a powerful and innovative and easy to use online platform. It really is very simple, very intuitive. People who've used things like SurveyMonkey in the past, of which you're probably aware, have said ours is much better, more flexible, easier to use. And some very experienced researchers have said the same thing to us. So you can get surveys set up and understand the results quickly and affordably. I'll just give you a tiny little taste of that. So we've got some great unique features. We're fully integrated with CRM Live and on-premise. You get full support from us, and we fully comply with GDPR. We're UK based, so you don't need to worry about where your data are going, and you don't even need to, and you don't need to worry about whether you'll be able to get it back again. So Survey Mechanics is easy to use. It's easy to set up sample surveys. We've even got samples you can copy straight away. You can use anything you've done before, and you can create one in no time at all. So it's quick. You can have a survey set up. We've had clients signing up with us and having a survey live within 30 minutes or less. It's really simple. We got some innovative features. So you can, for example, take your CRM data and pre-populate hidden questions in your survey. So this is great for when you want to have information in there. For example, you might want to put what the value of your customer is. You might want to put in there things like how long they've been a customer, what they buy, when they last bought, anything like that, which you can then use to steer them through the survey in certain routes. I'm just working on one at the moment we've done for a major online gaming company, which is actually where we've got the country of the respondent encoded. So the respondent doesn't see that, but it automatically takes them to the right language versions and all that sort of thing. So it's also great for HR surveys where you might want to keep stuff confidential but still know something about the respondent. So that's a great feature. You won't see it anywhere else. Our surveys are easy to analyze. This was a simple question that asks on a scale of, well, kind of not interested, quite interested, or very interested, how would you be in buying an app that our client was using? And with a couple of clicks of the mouse, you can split that and see that there are differences between male and female respondents. We can filter it, so we're only showing people under the age of 45 from an age question, and you can use any question pretty well in your survey to do that. And you can even divide up your results by time. So you could say, how do our customer satisfaction results this month compare with last month? Or how does this quarter compare to the last quarter? Or this month compared to last year? Or whatever you want to do. It's extremely flexible. In spite of that, we've also automated a lot of it. So if any of you have ever done a survey and then spent hours or days or weeks poring over spreadsheets trying to make sense of it, you'll understand that it's not always easy just to get the insight straight away. So we have built into Survey Mechanics something called the automatic analysis engine, which with decent sized samples will actually compare all the data in your survey and give you the results. It will tell you where there are significant differences. It will tell you where there are possible correlations. So if you need to know that people called Fred who drive BMWs are more likely to go on holiday in Mallorca, it might find that, assuming you've asked the right questions. And lastly, it integrates with Maximizer, and that's really simple. So that works really well. So let me show you some more. Just a little bit more about us, a little bit of credibility. These are some of the brands that we have helped. So you may recognize one or two of them. I'm just going to leave that there for another second because I quite like this one. So right. So why integrate? It's more than just surveys. So it's not only doing surveys that you can use, as I've said, for checking your customer service, checking on ex-customers, doing web surveys, new product development, PR. Oh, PR is a good one, by the way. The Times over the last year, has had 4,500 articles with the word survey in them. So if you want to get some free press, do a survey. It's really powerful. Checking pricing. If you bid follow-ups, if you put in a quote or a bid for some work and you didn't get it, find out why. May not be price. As a quick anecdote, I some years ago did this on my previous business, or my other business. It's still extant. And whenever I lost a bid, I said, well, I don't understand this because we can't be cheap. We can't be more expensive than anyone else because this is very efficient. And we were actually doing the survey revealed that we were too cheap to be credible. So we put the prices up a bit and won more business. So everyone was happy. So and the clients were happy that they were getting something that was valuable. So that was good. There is such a thing as too cheap. Staff attitude, again, really powerful. So not only that, but also for solving some other business issues. So you can automate internal processes. So you save some time, save some money, create opportunities. And you can then also, of course, enhance your traditional market research and your customer feedback while capturing key insights, which you can within Maximizer. So currently the features we have are that you can deploy surveys directly from Maximizer. So once you set up a survey, you can send it out with a personalized email directly from Maximizer. You can review your responses and results within Maximizer. You can auto-populate UDFs with live survey data. So you can have someone fill in a field in a survey, it links back to your UDFs and populates it automatically. You can auto-populate customer service cases. You could create new address book records in real time. You can upload historic survey data sets for analysis, and you can analyze survey data using Survey Mechanics Advanced Analytics tool, to which I referred a moment ago. And you can analyze survey data using Maximizer's Insight Analytics tool as well. So couple of recent cases. We're going to hear a bit more from Brian in a bit about automated training surveys and the flexibility of those, and the fact that we could then develop those to issue certificates kind of on the fly. And also something we've done recently is automatically updating contact details. So we can pre-populate a little survey saying these are the details we have for you, are they correct? And if not, then the respondent can simply update them and it goes straight back into Maximizer. So the automated population thing I just mentioned. So you might get a little survey that said like that. I have to say that Hulda Blackstock is an entirely fictitious person. This is done purely for the purposes of demonstration. So she or he, I have no idea, they could receive an email with a little survey link, and it would say these are the details we have for you. We don't have your company, but we've got your name and your phone and your email address. Are any of these wrong? So any of those wrong, she ticks the box, clicks the next box, and the next box will say, okay, what is your name then, and what's your phone number and what's your company, and that will all happen automatically. And then you can link those up with your fields in Maximizer, and it will automatically populate those for you when she tells you, or he tells you, or they tell you the results. And then from within Maximizer, you can then to do that, you can send out a survey invitation automatically to whoever you choose, and then when you want to see the results, you click on Get Answer, and you get your results. Bearing in mind that's also self-populated. So some potential user cases for that then. So you could have event-triggered automatic survey deployment. So for example, you've made a sale, you've had a site visit, you've made a delivery, you've got a new customer, etc., and you could have that information automatically populating back into your UDFs. You can use surveys. These are things that customers have suggested to us. So you could update your mobile workforce job data, job visits, and so on. You could automate new account forms. You could automate service records, new records from mail shots. So imagine you did a mail shot and said, would you like to know more? Fill in this little survey and it will populate Maximizer for you, which we think is quite cool. Or that could be on your website for that matter. Could it? No, it couldn't. No, it would need to be in an email. We'll look at the website thing. You could automatically track customer satisfaction. And anything else you need to track and update. So customer service cases could be course and training feedback, as we'll hear about, purchase feedback, experience feedback. How was the delivery for you? So if you're Amazon, how was your delivery? It was wow. Coming soon, we have a pro version which will have in additional features. So you'll be able to specify groups of contacts from Maximizer, send them all out at once. You'll be able to automate survey deployment. So that can be based on triggers which you'll be able to set and preset rules. So for example, that could be we made a sale, or we made a delivery, or there was a site visit, or perhaps more importantly and more exciting, I think, as a true blue marketing man, is you could have something that says, actually, this guy hasn't bought for us for 3 months. So why hasn't he bought from us? Is he buying from somewhere else, or has he stopped buying, or has he gone into another line of business, or what? But wouldn't it be great to be able to know that automatically? Deployment of surveys from opportunities in customer service cases, obviously. You can scheduling survey deployment. So we're going to put a survey out on that day because we want to know what our customers think, which you might then use for PR or whatever else. You'll be able to roll up all the information. So all the survey activity by client over the last 12 months or whatever period. We'll be enhancing the way you can look at results in Maximizer, as well as them being in the UDF and the pop-ups. And we'll have some better user permissions and security restrictions and so on, just to make sure that that's nice and polished. In terms of what you get from Survey Mechanics, we will give you as much or as little technical support as you need. We're happy to give you one-to-one demos. We'll do training for you and your staff. If you want to do some proper market research, we will give you some help on that. So if you've never done a survey before in your life and you want to know what your customers think or about customer satisfaction or something else, then we'll give you that advice as part of our remit. We can also do project consultancy and management. We can run entire research projects for you. If you're planning a new project or a new product or service, for example, and you want to research whether the market wants it, or you're heading into a new market and you're not quite sure how to do it, then come and talk to us. And problem solving. So as Brian did, I think it's fair to say, we said, can we do this? So we scratched our heads for a bit and said, yeah, we could do that. And we'll also regularly share stuff with you, so you know how things are developing. So there's a couple of people who have used it recently. Martec we'll hear about, and these are other Maximizer users who are happily using our survey platform. So next, what we'd like to do is circulate this presentation, and having done so, hopefully we'll arrange some follow-up meetings. And we'd also like to send a little survey out to you so you can tell us what you need and what your thoughts are. We would say that, wouldn't we? In summary, we're here to help, and it's already in use. So anytime you like. Some contact details. I'm afraid my colleague Paul has managed after 2 jabs to go down with COVID. So it's just me at the moment. So if you want to talk about this in the next few days, please get in touch. So I'm Peter Martin at the bottom there. So I think, thank you. I think we're doing Q&A at the end, aren't we, if there are any questions. So you're on mute.
Yep, I'm now off mute.
Thank you.
It's amazing how many conversations with me begin with Simon, you're on mute. Peter, thank you very much indeed. Great overview.
Thank you.
I would just say to people, if you have got questions, do put them in Q&A. If you are having problems getting into the Q&A and adding messages to chat, then please email simon.pickard or dougie.collier at Collier Pickard, and we'll try and sort you out. But for the next step, it's over to Brian. So a very brief introduction of Brian and his colleague Anne, who I'd like to thank for giving up their time to share their experiences today. Brian's been using Maximizer for more years than he and I care to remember. He's always been good at sweating his Maximizer asset, and when the Survey Mechanics integration was announced, Brian was an obvious candidate. As Peter highlighted, they're very keen to help the end users, and I think that this attitude really shone through in this project. But really, over to Brian for the rest of the story. Brian.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. What I'd like to do is give you a very small amount of background on Martec, who we are and what we do, just to give you the context. Then I'll explain why surveys are so important to us and what we do with the information we collect. And I'll finish by saying why we switched from our previous supplier to Survey Mechanics and what are the benefits that we get now, including the benefits that we couldn't get with our previous supplier. So that's my plan for the next few minutes. And if I find out how the slide control works, I'll be able to get going. So these days, what we do is we develop and we market e-learning, which is particularly focused on the retail and the consumer goods industry. So we sell to retailers, we sell to consumer goods manufacturers, and we sell to the technology companies and the consulting firms that provide services to those specific segments. We started developing our training portfolio, our e-learning training portfolio, in about 1997. And we take two ways that you can license our training. Individuals can take an order over the website. They can go to our website and buy a training class just for one person and pay with a credit card, in which case that runs on our learning management system. So we have complete knowledge and visibility of what you're doing with the product. But the bulk of our revenue comes from corporate licenses that we sell to large companies who should remain nameless, but for reference, we'll call one of them IBM. They mostly run on their own learning management systems. Before April 2020, we knew absolutely nothing about the usage and the appreciation levels of our product in the corporate companies, which is really 90% of our total revenue, partly because it was in their interest not to share feedback with us, because if we realized how good the feedback was, we might negotiate tougher on the license renewals, and on the we might be inclined to start increasing our prices. So they found vested reasons not to share. In April 2020, we found another product that Peter's already mentioned, and we used that product to put a survey into all of our classes, and in particular, we implemented it first in all of our corporate clients, and we started to get feedback. And boy, did we learn a lot, and the feedback was like gold dust. But then it got better still, and it got better still partly because Simon introduced us to survey mechanics. So we owe you for that, Simon, seriously. And this chart kind of is an overview of all the things we do with the survey data that we get. And I will echo something that Peter said. We got a huge amount of expertise from them. We basically run the same survey in survey mechanics that we ran in the previous product that we used. It's effectively all the same questions. We measure all the same things, which is great because our history is still meaningful. But what used to happen was it required a huge amount of manual labor to export the data from the previous product into Excel, spend hours and hours cleansing that data, and we uploaded it into Maximizer, and we analyzed some of it in Excel and we analyzed some of it in Maximizer. But it was painful in terms of the number of staff hours it took to cleanse the data. In our process, a learner completes a class. When they complete the class, they take a mastery test. We're very proud of the fact that our mastery tests are tough. Our pass mark is 80%, and the questions are not trivial. So when you pass one of our class tests, you know, you've really achieved something. So we send you a certificate of achievement for that individual class. In our old solution, we had a 2-month backlog of sending out certificates to people, bearing in mind that we were sending out about 4,000 of these a year. It wasn't like we were sending out 20 or 30. But the sheer volume and the manual effort around it meant that we had at least a 2-month backlog in getting the. So people had forgotten they'd taken the test and got the certificate by the time it turned up in the mail. We then started working with survey mechanics, and one of the first things they did was they automated our certificate production in their product. So now somebody goes in, does the survey, completes the survey, they get their certificate of achievement within 2 or 3 minutes elapsed time, while they still remember they've just completed the survey. And one of the benefits of that is it then motivates them to get on and take the next class that's waiting in their learning path. So from a customer's point of view, the customers love it because of the level of engagement it creates amongst the employees, among many other things that we do. Okay. We analyze all the data very carefully. Our surveys have 4 scored questions and 7 that require free text answers. The learners also have to supply their name, their country, their email address to get their certificate completed. And we capture all that data into our Maximizer CRM system. Our classes are organized into suites, and a suite can be 6 classes or 10 classes typically. Right. If they then graduate the entire suite, in other words, they get their 80% pass mark for every class in the suite, we send them another certificate. This is a nicely printed one. It's printed on stiff white card. It's got the Martec logo. It's got the client's logo. We sign it with a silver pen underneath the Martec logo. Typically, an executive at the company, when they receive it, they sign it. And for example, one of our clients, Dubai Duty Free, they received 130 certificates. We fly them out by airmail, and we fly them as a thing. The client, the CEO at Dubai Duty Free, signed every one of the 130 personally, got all the students and a lot of the management colleagues into a big conference room and did a presentation ceremony, just like your university degree presentation ceremony if you've ever done one. And that's part of our kind of build the experience and give the people a reason to strive and complete the rest of the suite and go for the 80%. And we track all of that in Maximizer, and we manage, because we've got to track the fact you've completed 10 classes, and you don't get any of this unless you've completed the surveys. You know, we do the execution of that last bit. So the 2 things that have got red boxes around them, they're because they have to be executed in Maximizer with the data that's integrated into Maximizer, and the box with the blue background is because that's something that we can do in survey mechanics, but we could never do with our previous supplier. You know, the manual work was just too horrible to contemplate. And the things around the rest of the chart in the black boxes, they're things we could do in our previous product, but it required very large amounts of labor to do it. And that was a challenge for us. So we analyze the survey data carefully, and we do several things with the analysis. The first is we track. There are 4 scored questions, and the questions say something like, to what extent do you believe this class has helped you do your job better? And in a survey, in a sample base of over 4,000 learners, the average score is 8.6 out of 10. We believe that the norm in the e-learning industry, and the evidence is not great, but what evidence we can ascribe says that the norm is around about 5.5 to 6. So we think at 8.6, we stand out fairly head and shoulders above our competitors. So we make a big thing. We publish that on the homepage on our website. We publish the scores for every individual class on the product page for that class. We produce analyses for the client, and we produce custom reports for the individual person in each client that basically signs our checks. And we do that for 2 reasons. One is we want that guy to use it to make themselves look like a hero in their own organization. That's part of our sales strategy, if you like. And secondly, because the data is generally so good, it reinforces the probability that they renew their license with us next year. And a lot of this is legwork that we put in order to secure our renewals. We then analyze all of the free text questions, and we use that feedback to measure where we fall short on the product or where the product's got scope for improvement. And every time we sit down and do an upgrade of a class, we use the survey feedback to decide what goes into the upgrade for that particular class. When we do the analyses of the surveys, we send the client the complete analysis, including all the free text, good and bad. We don't hide any of the bad stuff. If there are negative comments in there, they get all of that along with the positive comments. We can afford to do this because, of course, the vast majority are positive, but we don't take out anything that we don't want. There is nothing we don't want the client to see, so to speak. Okay, but what we do when we send the client the free text component is we kind of highlight in red all of those things that people have said as improvements they'd like to see that are planned to be in the next release. And so we're kind of sending out the survey, telling them how good it is, but we're also telling them what's going to be in the next version in terms of the survey feedback. And again, that's designed to help encourage them to do the renewals. The point about this is that the survey, you can see that the survey is kind of quite tightly integrated into our core customer service business processes. it's very important to us strategically, and it's one of the major differentiators between us and the people we compete with, because to the best of our knowledge, none of our competitors provide this kind of feedback. And I'm even now encouraging our partners. We have a reseller in the US that sells quite a lot of our stuff, and a lot of their own. We're now even encouraging our partners to do it on their own products, so that we look like more of a kind of integrated family of products. So what did Survey Mechanics do for us? The first thing they did was they saved us a huge number of staff hours. In fact, at one point in the conversation, Peter's colleague Paul, who's not with us sadly, he actually said, "You may not want to make all these savings, Brian, because if you start laying staff off, it might cause a bad feeling." And I said, "There's absolutely no problem with that, because we won't be laying anybody off." And the blessing of saving so many staff hours is we've been able to use those hours to do some of the things that are described below on the rest of this chart. We get much deeper insight into what our customers are actually doing with our product, because we've now got the time to run the analyses when a lot of that time disappeared in doing data cleansing. So we've dramatically reduced the amount of data that we need to import to Maximizer. That's made the whole process easier. We've saved an awful lot of labor through individual certificates and so on, but we've just got a whole lot more insights. So to give you an example, because we have time to do this, we've known for years that we have clients who sign our checks in 36 countries. What we discovered was that we've got users of our e-learning in more than 60 countries, right? And we only sell our products in English. So in 60 countries in the world, people can use our product. And we know from the survey results that even people in Vietnam and Colombia who are doing this in their second language, they still rate our classes in the 8.5, 8.6 scale, versus clients in America that are doing this in their first language. And there's no material difference in client satisfaction levels between people doing it in their first language and their second language, which when you're trying to sell to a global company that's got offices in many countries, that's a real helpful thing in a sales presentation. The second thing is we now analyze the data, and we can see that people who do this in their second language on average take twice as long to study a class as people who do this in their first language. So we can coach the client on how long, when you're setting targets for how long people need to study the programs, we can coach the client on, you can set one target for the UK, the US and so on, and a completely different target for places like Japan and Vietnam and countries like that. And the clients find that very helpful insight. Obviously, when you've got clients in so many countries, you might say, why don't you just translate the classes and make it easier? You can't afford to. We had a client who shall remain nameless, we'll call them Hewlett Packard, and they asked us what it would cost to translate a particular suite for their Japanese subsidiary, so the Japanese could do it in the local language. So to take one of our suites with 10 modules, the forecast to convert it, to translate it all to Japanese, was £120,000. If you had to repeat that for multiple countries, if you pick the 5 or 6 biggest countries, you wouldn't have a training budget left by the time you've paid for the translation. So we know that realistically we can't do that given the spread that we've got geographically. But what we've done is we've looked at the language we use when we update our classes, and we look at our word choices, and we try and pick words that are more likely to be understood with people who've got some knowledge of English, but it's not their first language. And so we do a number of things like that to try and help, and we will give clients some of our downloads, our resource downloads. We'll give them to them in Word if they want them, so they can run them through Google Translate and get pretty good approximations on some of the documentation. One of the things we do, again, with the survey data, is that in our classes, we have a series of downloadable resources. A lot of our clients asked us for actual text documentation for the complete class. We don't supply that as a policy decision because we sell a lot in countries where there's no effective copyright protection, no intellectual property protection. But what we've done given the survey feedback was we started authoring, and we've now done all of the suites that we sell. We now have a series of resources that they can download which are summaries of all the key points in each class. So they can download it, print it, keep it in their desk, carry it in their briefcase, put it in their jacket pocket for a key meeting or something like that. And that's the kind of example where we've used the feedback to improve the service that we give our customers. So just to kind of summarize then, you can see how strategic the surveys become to the way that we run our business. We support customer service, we support our sales activity, and we using the same insights to help us develop our overall strategy. So the whole thing is very strategic to us. Survey Mechanics cost us more money than the product we used to use before Survey Mechanics. But I have to say the increase in investment was seriously worth it, because the value that we're getting back now in terms of client satisfaction, the feedback, the real depth understanding of what people want improved in the product, all that kind, the value, the feedback we get is so good that it was one of the really good investments we ever made. I probably owe Simon a couple of bottles of wine for the introduction. But anyway, with that, that's my immediate feedback on what we've done, and clearly we like the product. You can tell that by the enthusiasm in my voice. If you have any questions at all that we don't cover in the Q&A session, my email's on the screen. It will be in the materials that get sent out to you. Please feel free to send me a question about any aspect of what we've done with Survey Mechanics. Equally, about any aspect of what we do with Maximizer. Simon kind of ducked it a little bit. We've been using Maximizer, I think, for 26 years. Yeah. We started on version 1 and we're still there on the current live version. We've done every upgrade that we could do along the way. And again, the Maximizer thing is so integrated into the way we run our business that, we find it hard to do business in future without Survey Mechanics, but we'd find it equally hard to do it without Maximizer. So with that, I'll say thank you for listening to me, and I'll pass it back to Simon for the Q&A.
Brian, many thanks. Let's share the bottles of wine when we next see each other. So state the obvious. I'm naturally pleased that the introduction was worthwhile and you're getting massive benefits. Yeah. I'm always interested in what people are doing, and that was really thought-provoking. And your point about it actually frees people up to do more interesting things is very important, I think. I'm not going to eulogize you for too long. So actually, I'm going to go over to Dougie and say, Dougie, have you harvested questions in the Q&A session in the chat? I don't think I can see absolutely everything. So if Dougie, if you can unmute yourself and tell me if you can see, I think as the lead organizer, can you see messages in the chat?
There are a few people still typing, but mostly just really great insights and thank you. If we do get a question through, I will pass it on, but not yet.
Okay, I can. Okay, so Diego and various others are typing. If people want to hang on while we bring these up, or if there's any other questions, as you can see, I think one of the things I like is that Brian's very open, Peter's very open. If you want more information, feel free to contact Peter, feel free to contact Brian, or if you feel more comfortable routing that through Matthew Head or myself at Collier Pickard, then do that. So I think probably on that point, unless there's more questions and things, I'm going to say thank you very much indeed for attending. With the relaxation of restrictions, I hope that I will see some of you in the flesh in the not too distant future, as glasses of wine over Teams isn't quite the same thing. And
nothing.
I will say, Sue, I can see that Sue Williams is typing, but I'm just going to hold off closing everything until I see a message from Sue, because if that's a question, it would seem crazy to have gone before Sue has finished typing. So it's Peter. I think that your business of being able to get people to confirm their details is a very powerful use of the tool that probably a lot of people haven't looked at. And
actually, I'll jump in and say that I'm looking at that as my next project now that I've learned this.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, and I quoted a client to do that some years ago, and it was just it did everything he wanted, but the price was horrible. Whereas I think just a survey mechanics subscription and the free connector is the answer to I hesitate to call him a maiden, but is the answer to several people's prayers.
Yeah, we may need a little bit of support from us to get it up and running, but once it's going, it's fine. Yeah.
No, I think that's fine. I think people can see the benefits.
Yeah.
Sue, thanks for your message, which I can now see.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Dougie Collier has got another Q&A. I think there's lots of people saying, "Oh, we're going to be in touch." So I think it's probably time to. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say. I just wanted to bit of feedback on Brian's comment that we're more expensive than his previous solution. Just like to say, not that much more expensive.
But I did say it was very good value, and we're very pleased we spent the extra money.
You did. Thank you.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's probably better. It's more expensive, but much better value than the other product.
That's exactly. I think that's what I said.
There was a question that came up offline, which a little while ago, which was about the as I mentioned, we've got UK-based servers, and just about why that's significant. There are other survey platforms available, and as a true BBC speak, but many of them you will find have their servers based in the US, and the law as it currently stands, it is very, very difficult to get a legal arrangement by which you can transfer data backwards and forwards if it's personal. So if you're doing surveys on other platforms, I would just advise a bit of caution about knowing where your data are going, which is why we keep ours in the UK, because it just means that we're okay for EU. As of a couple of weeks ago, we're okay for anything in the UK and the EU. So that covers that one. But the US one is a bit sticky. You have to do things like standard contractual contracts, and you need to spend several months of your life on the ICO website trying to work out what you can and can't do. So.
Sure, and that chimes very well with Maximizer, where the Maximizer CRM Live Business Plus servers are all in the UK in a Tier 4 data center. So right. No, that's great. Another reason why we like it.
I should just say 75% of the people in our database are outside the UK, and 90% of the surveys that we get back, no, more than 90% of the surveys we get back come from outside the UK. I mean, they're completed online on Peter's processors, because people make the link through to complete the survey, but the data, we sell very little actually in the UK itself. Probably less than 5% of our total sales. So
but that's okay. The problem would be if you were using a platform that was based in the US, for example, then you'd be shipping data to and from the US, which is where it gets sticky.
Yeah.
So,
Great. Yeah. I think chat seems to have died down. I'm going to say thank you very much indeed to everybody. Brian, Peter, very many thanks for giving up your time. Pleasure. And many thanks for sitting there as the fallback for Brian, and
she's holding my chair up while I drink.
Yeah. And Dougie Collier, our marketing guy here at Collier Pickard, who's put the whole webinar together, and I hope that seemed pretty smooth. And everything else, has gone smoothly. So thanks to those guys.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone for your attention.
And perhaps Brian, Peter, Dougie will reconvene in 10 minutes.
Okay,
fine.
Just for a quick debrief.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, thanks all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Many thanks.
Are we coming back in on the same link?
I should think so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right, guys. See you in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Dougie,
Thanks.
can I leave you to finally end it? Yep. Great.